Well, last week, Tuesday, the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission approved new state legislative districts for both the State House, the State Senate, as well as federally. And joining us now to talk about that, as well as what happens now going forward with the redistricting here in Michigan, is one of the commissioners from the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. MC Rothhorn is back with us once again on the MegaCast. Commissioner, thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome, Tyler. Nice to be here.
Appreciate having you on. And so these maps were approved last week, Tuesday. And so the process of the commission deciding on maps that they were going to push forward into the redistricting process has been completed, but it took an extensive amount of work from the commission. It took a lot of negotiation and renegotiation and a lot of waiting for information as well. From the outside looking in, that seems like it was delayed and it was taking a very long time. From somebody that was involved in the process, just how extensively were these redistricting maps discussed by members of the commission?
There are hundreds of hours of video and live stream that will validate that we talked about it, discussed it. We talked about how we were going to talk about it. We talked about how we were going to vote about it. As you mentioned, right, there were delays. We wrestled with making sure that this legal process, driven by citizens who are commissioners like myself, but who are also listening to more citizens about what these legislative districts should look like, that was also part of this legal process. It was so there was an understanding in August that we were going to probably not wait, but we were going to get the delayed census data, and that was going to push back our deadline till the end of the year. And we met that deadline, even though it wasn't the constitutional deadline. It was the one that allowed citizens to give their input, and citizens like us on the commission to actually understand all the input that we needed as first-timers drawing these maps.
And that was one of the benefits of the passage of this law by the population in 2018 in order to create the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, is to have that extensive public input period and to have members of the public ultimately deciding on these legislative maps rather than those that are currently in office, particularly those in the party of majority power. We're joined by MC Rothhorn. He is one of the commissioners of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And after the examples of maps that would be discussed were released, and even after the passage of these maps last week, Tuesday, there's been a lot of criticism from both Republicans and Democrats, as was to be expected, but particularly from Detroiters who argue that majority black congressional and Senate districts have either been severely affected or eliminated by the proposed maps and by the maps that were passed, both on the front of the inevitable criticism that was going to come with these decisions, but also the considerations of these majority-minority districts. What was discussed at the commission level about maintaining minority districts or maintaining the fairness of these districts in order to not shut out minority populations, particularly in major areas of the state of Michigan, like major cities such as Detroit?
Again, the question, what was discussed, that's all in the tapes. It's live, it's transparent. There was nothing that wasn't discussed. That was, everything was live broadcast. Everything was live streamed and recorded. So that's the basic question or answer to your question. And I believe that, that was part of the struggle that we had when we made the decision. Like we did hear from people that said, like, change the House maps in particular, the congressional and the Senate. There were those who, were not happy with them, but in large numbers, we heard about our House maps, and we had a real struggle, I think, to make sure that we as a government body were going to respect the people, and especially people of color, who are telling us to change these maps. It was not an easy decision. We did the best we can with what the numbers we had and the time that we have. And I think that's what all people do in their lives, as normal citizens. Every day we make hard decisions and we do the best we can with what we got.
There was another point of controversy recently about a closed session that was held with the commission and its attorneys. And so what was the reasoning from a commissioner standpoint, from the discussions that you and your fellow commissioners had with your attorneys? What was the rationale going into that closed session to hold a closed session, given that the law that put this commission in place was adamant about having the majority or the vast majority of these conversations about redistricting being in public?
So I'll reiterate that we are citizens, right? We're doing this all for the first time. And we, as a body of 13, did not all agree unanimously to go into this closed session. And as a body, the majority did, as our legal counsel, we did as our legal counsel advised us, which is to have a closed session to understand what it was in those two memos about voting rights, the Voting Rights Act and the history of racism in the state of Michigan. Those were the two documents, and that's why we went into the closed session, again, based on our legal counsel.
And so let's talk about that too. You mentioned the difficulties of this being a commission of citizens, of people that are not necessarily entirely familiar with governmental processes, with the Open Meetings Act even. What sort of training, when you were selected for this, was there any training that was undergone for these commissioners that would help them through these processes, or were you kind of just thrown into the situation that you had volunteered for and then were selected for and had to learn on the go?
So I think it's a combination of both. Like I'm sure for many of my colleagues, right, and for myself, like it did feel like we were thrown in, and of course we weren't thrown in. We were well prepared, frankly, and we had lots of experts who were helping us from the very first day of our orientation. And gosh, I believe in the Constitution, it said we were supposed to be convened before October. We were convened at the end of August, meaning the Secretary of State was our official secretary, and still is our official secretary to the commission. And so they convened us with more time, right? So it's very fair to say that we were given an orientation, we were given training, we were given all the experts and the tools that we needed, and right, there were delays in some of the information, and it's like drinking from a fire hose when you're doing this for the first time. So I'll just offer that, yeah, I really want to encourage more citizens to do this, because I do think it's really an important part of our domestic democratic institutions. And I think it's something that every citizen can do. And yes, it's challenging.
And being one of the first people in the state of Michigan to be a part of this commission, the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, being that you did experience for lack of better terms, off the top of my head, trial by fire, that was this process and the difficulties that went into learning this on the go and doing this for the first time here in the state of Michigan. For those that may be interested in 10 years from now, the next Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, what advice do you have for people that may be interested in doing that down the road to help them prepare for the process that they're going to have to go through, both so that they're ready to go if and when they are selected for this commission, and so that our future redistricting commissions have a smoother process than was maybe undergone this first time?
Gosh, I'll say, sí se puede. Yes, we can. We are the ones we've been waiting for. You know, it's like, if not who, if not me, then who? And I think, right, each of us has this opportunity to vote, right? There are these civic duties that we have, which are sometimes we don't exercise, but we can vote. We can be on a jury, right? And we can be on the Citizens Redistricting Commission in Michigan. And I think that what's also important, I would offer, is consider signing up, because we in Michigan in 2018, we were the people who resoundingly defeated these interests, these powerful interests, the professionals who didn't want to see government by the people. They want to do it for the people, those professionals, but I don't think they want it by the people. It threatens the power structure. And I think if we don't participate, if we don't sign up, and if we don't think we can, right, then they win. So I'll just offer that, yes, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We can do it. It's important to figure it out. Sometimes it doesn't feel like there's a good answer, and you'll make the best you'll do it. right? That's what we did, and I think we can be proud of it. Again, it's a messy process, and it was transparent, so everything was out there. It's not messy and sort of hidden behind closed doors. The fairness is right there in the video.
We're joined by MC Rothhorn. He's one of the commissioners on the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission that passed last week their legislative maps for the state House of Representatives, the state Senate, as well as our federal legislative districts here in the state of Michigan. You can learn more information about the entire process and view those in the archives of their meetings past and recent by visiting michigan.gov/MICRC. That's michigan.gov/MICRC, or which stands for Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And so, MC, with the lawsuits that are being discussed as potentially coming up in reaction to the districts that were passed by the commission and that were discussed because of issues we already talked about, should those lawsuits be successful for those that are initiating them, what happens with the commission at that point if certain rulings are made that are not out of favor but are differing from the current maps? Does the commission then have to go back to work and continue with those processes?
That's a great question. I mean, we ourselves are in this process for the first time, right? This part of the legal process. And so we will comply with the law. We will be ready. But I suppose the answer to your question really is in the details that are given to us when the court decides.
We're joined by MC Rothhorn. He is one of the members of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, joining us on the MegaCast. And in additional news as well, the commission voted on December 16th to budget upwards $49,999 for a documentary to tell the story of the processes that were undertaken in this first-time process of a commission of citizens redistricting Michigan's legislative districts. It will be described as a lessons learned video. You were someone that had said you were in favor of this documentary and report. Why did you take favor to the idea of the commission having a documentary processed about what they undertook to draw these new maps?
More education for the citizens. Again, this is the first time. I want that, right, in 10 years from now, in 20 years from now, 30 years from now, the next redistricting cycles, there will be more citizens just like me and my 12 colleagues who will be doing this. And so to tell the story as fresh as possible, not 2 months from now, but right now, and not even 2 years from now, to tell that story and to as a whole body, right, as a whole commission, to tell that story is the other part that I think is so important. Like, we do operate as a body. We don't have 13 individual commissioners. We are one body. And when we separate, we are, of course, individuals, right? And I think that's an important thing that we need in democratic institutions that work as a body, right? That we subjugate our individual interests and work as a whole. And so it's the idea of capturing that and telling that story and what it takes. Some of those are the lessons that I learned.
Well, MC, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us to talk a little bit more about the processes that went into drawing these new legislative maps, as well as some of the reactions and controversy, so to speak, that is surrounding this first time set of decisions being made by a commission of independent citizens. We appreciate your time.
Thanks very much for having me.